My name is Lia Perez, and I am an investigative reporter with the examination. I want to say that this is the very first Twitter space that the examination organizes. We are a very new news organization. We focus on investigating industries that have a negative impact on public health around the world, and we just started publishing in September. So I'm very happy that our first space we have gathered a panel of journalists from different newsrooms in Latin America. And we will be discussing the stories that we all published as part of our Nicotine Networks project, which has investigated the tobacco industry tactics to promote the new generation of nicotine products in Latin America. Before we go any further, I'd like to cover some ground rules. Uh, Please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking so that we can avoid echoes and other sound issues. Please post your questions in the chat on comments. We are leaving some time at the end of the space for questions, but you can post them as we are talking. And then depending on how the conversation turns, we can address them as we go or at the very end. Uh, please do not hesitate to ask whatever you're curious about regarding the topic that we are talking about. We will love to answer your questions. And that said, I have another request. Please be respectful of others of the space. The examination reserves the right to remove any speaker who is off topic or is being disruptive. Um, and with that, and I have already talked a lot, I'd like to open the floor for each of the journalists who are going to participate in this space to introduce themselves. Fabiola, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about who you are, who is your news organization, and where are you based?
Hi, Maria. Hi, everybody. I'm Fabiola Torres. I'm a journalist based in Peru, and I am the director of Salud con Lupa. That is a investigative journalist outlet that focuses on public health in Peru. Sometimes we collaborate to produce some stories in Latin America and other countries. Thank you for the invitation.
Do you do you want to go next, Jose?
Sure. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is José Peñarredonda. I'm a journalist from Colombia. I work at the Latin American Center for Investigative Journalism, CLIP, in Spanish acronym. What we do is cross-border collaborative investigations. I was invited by Maria and some of her colleagues to join this project, so I'm really happy to be here.
And finally, last but not least, Laura, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your news organization?
Yes, hi, I'm Laura Scofield. I'm a reporter at Agência Pública in Brazil. We are an investigative news agency. I'm based in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil.
Before we start talking about what our stories and our reporting found, I'd like to add one more thing. If you have any information that you think it's important regarding our reporting, or if you have any ideas for things that you should be investigating related to the tobacco industry, to cigarettes, new nicotine products in countries where we focused our reporting or anywhere else, please let us know. No idea is silly, and we'd love to hear from you. Or all of our emails are on our Twitter bios, I think. X bios, I guess I should say. And you can get in touch with us, with any of us. So let's begin. I'd like to start with Fabiola. Salud con Lupa has done a lot of in-depth reporting about what is happening in Peru, where new nicotine products such as vapes are not regulated. And I was wondering if Fabiola could tell us a little bit about what your team found about a group that says it represents vapers and users of other nicotine products in Peru. Who are these groups members, and what have they done to try to influence legislation about vapes over there?
Okay, Maria. When Salud con Lupa team started this investigation, we identified that something was happening in the market because nowadays we can buy vapes everywhere. And this is something that 2 years ago didn't happen. Um, there are some voices that says that we have more than 2,000 users of vapes in Peru, but nobody knows which is the source of um, um, this population of people that is vaping now. After that, we wanted to investigate who is behind the science of this market and the organization. And we found that the Peruvian Association of Vapers was created at the beginning of 2020, and their members usually present themselves as user, and they have some testimonies about how they changed their problem with the nicotine, with the tobacco, and now they vape and they feel better, everything. But they didn't say, never say that they are merchants and they are people that have companies that import a lot of vapes to Peru. And also ASOVAPE, the president of ASOVAPE, that is the manager of the Vape Nation company, is part of other organizations, ERDT, for example, and is part of other networks that promote the vapers in Latin America. And they never say this when he presents to the Congress. And they say that he is a user and have information about scientific sources or studies that support their opinion, but he never said this. And in short, it's that the group of people that is behind the ASOVAPE Peru, it's a group of merchants that want to promote the business, but they are not worried about the public health problem in our country. Finally, I know that there are 6 projects bills that have been prepared in our Congress, but just last year the congressman fusioned all the projects in one, but it's very complicated to have a legislation about these products because Congress didn't have the opinion of other sources. The principal opinion of the projects was Jorge Palma, the president of Vape Peru, and this is it's very problematic for us to have a public health conversation with merchants.
Right. Another story that I thought was super interesting that you guys reported was about how minors over there have access to vape products, even though we often hear from the tobacco companies and vape businesses that they are putting a lot of effort on stopping children from buying them. This week, the UK announced plans to ban the sale of disposable vapes because they are trying to curb use by children of these products. What is the situation in Peru, and like, what did you find with your reporting?
Yeah, Peru is an unregulated market for these products. The British American Tobacco started or began its activities in 2022 in Peru and has soon become one of the companies that has made the most imports, far surpasses its competitors. And they sell, according to their protocols, the product, the Views Go, that is the name of the vapor that British American Tobacco produces. They have in the packet a sentence that says it's not for teenagers, so it's only for adults, and also said nicotine is addictive. But even of this message, all the shops, the markets, mini markets in Peru, we have a lot of mini markets, sell the products to children, to teenagers. And we try to follow this with the help of a teenager. And we went to many markets in Lima, registered how easy it is to buy these products. And it's a problem because the British American tobacco has a lot of rules when they sell their products in other countries. But here in Peru, there is no regulation, and they want to sell. And also, the advertisement is complicated because their advertisement in social networks, also in the shops, are related to style of life for teenagers. And this is something that they are prohibited to do in other countries, but in Peru, they do this without problem. Well, something important is that the British American Tobacco has been one of the sponsors of the Association of Wine Robbers of Peru since 2020. And this is important because it implies an influence of the position of this union. This union support the position of the British American Tobacco to not regulate these products, and they have an opinion at the Congress. That makes sense because BAT is the most important sponsor of this association. Well, an unregulated market in my country, we have a lot of products. Chinese products that are increasing the offer for many people, especially for teenagers, because the flavor, the shape, everything is permitted to include in advertisement for this kind of profile of people that wanted to taste this.
Yeah, that was really a very interesting finding that you guys had. Meanwhile, in Brazil, the regulations of vapes and heated tobacco are very different. From Peru, the regulatory agency there, Anvisa, has banned the sale of these products for years, and the industry has been fighting the ban. Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you found about how the tobacco industry is working to try to get the agency to allow the commercialization of vapes in Brazil?
Yes, well, we've published 3 stories that tell how the tobacco industry is working to liberate this commercialization here in Brazil. First of all, as you said, Maria, we need to know that in Brazil, vapes and heated tobacco products have been prohibited since 2009. But now there is a review process opened in Anvisa, that is our regulatory agency, to review this prohibition. So by the end of the year, we should have a verdict, and no vapes will definitely be prohibited or permitted. So there is a lot in stake right now. And the stories we've published show 3 ways in which the industry is operating to try to change this prohibition. First of all, there is an attempt to change the way that the general public views this discussion, like convince the people that vapes should be allowed. We've shown that the tobacco industry has been paying for branded content that defends a regulation that liberates the vapes in at least 10 big Brazilian newspapers. So a lot of money is involved. And they are also holding events and lives with people pro-liberation, only with people pro-liberation. They don't invite people that are against the liberation of the commercialization of vapes, of course. And another strategy that we found is that the industry is trying to convince our congressmen to present projects, bills, that defend the commercialization of vapes, especially in the south of Brazil. There are a lot of tobacco plantations, so we know, and this is an old thing, we know there are a lot of congressmen that are already used to defending the industry interests. They deny it. They are known for defending the industry interests. So we show that these people are now defending the vapes and the heated tobacco products, which is a new thing because it's a new theme for their industry. And also the industry is trying to influence Anvisa directly. Anvisa is the leader agency, and they are holding meetings with the directors responsible for the tobacco area and presenting a lot of documents that defend the liberation. BAT also hired a former Anvisa director that is now working to liberate vapes. So in our stories, we show that there are a lot of strategies, and they include the Anvisa and also the Congress. Yeah.
What are the next chapters? What is how does this what is next for this, and what is the health sector doing to counter or oppose the industry efforts?
Yeah, since everything is at stake now, because now today the vapes are prohibited, but they could change this prohibition. Right now, everyone is waiting for the end of the review process by Anvisa that will tell us which are the next steps. So, depending on this decision, maybe the industry will focus its lobbying efforts to try to permit the vapes using the Congress, which could result in a judiciary battle. Everyone that I talked about it said that it would be very confusing if the industry try to permit vapes using the Congress, because Anvisa is now the responsible regulator for tobacco products. But if the Congress passes a bill or direction, there would be an impasse, which would only be resolved in the judiciary. And for now, the health sector is trying to initiate Anvisa also. For example, the Medicine Federal Council will hold an event at the end of February, I think 27, to talk about the harms presented by these new nicotine products. And organizations are also starting campaigns to talk about what really the vapes do. So I think everyone is trying to influence so that the decision could be made by Anvisa. Yeah.
What we are seeing around the world is that many countries are debating with a lot of intensity about how to best regulate these new products, like vapes, like heated tobacco, nicotine pouches. And we are seeing that the tobacco industry is trying to, in a way, rebrand themselves as part of the solution to the smoking epidemic that they help fuel and that kills millions of people every year. And they're doing that by saying that these products are a better alternative to cigarettes and they are part of the solution that way. But these products contain nicotine, which is very, very addictive. And in the case of vapes, for example, we can't say for certain how many, what many of their health effects will be. But there have been some red flags so far. And while many researchers do think that they are likely will likely be less harmful than cigarettes, others aren't that sure. And it's also unclear still to what extent they may help some folks quit smoking. As an aside, if you want to know more about all of this, we have done stories explaining what we know and what we don't know about the health impacts of these products. But anyway, in this context, what the examination found is that tobacco money, in a specific money from Philip Morris International, which is the company that you may know because sells Marlboro cigarettes along with new nicotine products. Money from this company ended and directly funding people and groups similar to Asovape Peru, the group that Fabiola spoke about at the beginning. Though I must say that we did not find any financial connections specifically to Asovape Peru itself. But these other groups are similar groups in the sense that they say they represent users of these products. Then they go and lobby for more lenient regulations for these products. They show up at congressional hearings, they send letters to policymakers, and they promote these products in different ways. And we found that people who do that in Colombia, in Costa Rica, and in Brazil receive money that indirectly came from Philip Morris International. How it works out is that Philip Morris International, or PMI, funds a US-based foundation, which is called the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World. Though, according to records, they just changed their name, although they haven't publicized that. I think it's Global Action to Anti-Smoking right now, if I remember right. And the foundation, at least up to 2022, which is where we have records, was exclusively funded by this tobacco company, by Philip Morris International. Then what the foundation does in turn is they give grants to other organizations, and those organizations sometimes fund the people and groups that we are talking about. And by the way, these people and groups, like Fabiola said before about their connections with big businesses, they don't clearly disclose that indirect funding when they talk to policymakers about these laws. The foundation has told us that it's independent from Philip Morris International, and they just announced that they won't be receiving any money after they got just a couple months ago last year $140 million from them in September. But there are academics and policymakers and even a former employee who have questioned that they what they say about their independence. One of the grantees of this foundation is Katie, Knowledge Action Change. This group, based in the UK, gives away what they call scholarships. And of the three people that we found that we wrote about in Costa Rica and Colombia received those. For example, the person in Brazil, Claudio Teixeira, received scholarships, and one of them was to prepare, according to the website of Casey, was to prepare a bill that would have a draft bill that have allowed the sale of vapes and electronic cigarettes in Brazil, where I explained that's been banned for years. That draft bill was later shared with policymakers, according to the social media posts of a group where he was the coordinator. Another example that we found was in Colombia, where we focused a lot in the story. And we talk about Francisco Ordóñez. Francisco Ordóñez is the president of Asovape Colombia and the former president of an umbrella nonprofit that includes many of these groups, that groups many associations. And he received one of the scholarships. The umbrella group is called ARDT in America. And in their website, they say that they got a scholarship from this company that came from, with the money coming originally from the foundation to build their website. But what the website didn't say is, for example, one, that the money originally came from Philip Morris International, and number two, that Francisco Ordóñez and his wife co-owned the company that designed and developed the website. These groups in general, what we found out is that they provide very little information about who is on their board, who funds them, who makes the decisions, and they don't make any reference in their indirect about their indirect funding when they address lawmakers and policymakers. And I guess I would like for Jose. Why don't you talk a little bit more about how Asovape Colombia tried to influence the legislative debate over there, so that we can give some example about how this could work.
Sure. So, Vape Colombia, as Fabiola said, in the case of Peru, is basically a clique of people who do like three things. One, they are like vaping influencers. All of them have significant social media presence. During the pandemic, they gathered quite a sizable community of vaping fans, so to speak. Two, most of them have like small independent, let's say, modern small vaping businesses. They sell devices, they sell the liquids that get vaporized, and so on. And three, what they do is, or at least what Francisco Ordóñez does, is he appears from time to time in front of Congress whenever he has the chance to speak about how vaping should not be regulated as stringently, as tobacco is. That's like their main talking point. His main argument is that vaping and tobacco alternative devices and products can help people quit smoking, something that, as you said, Maria, in an earlier piece, it's not quite proven yet. And also something that contradicts figures from Colombian government that says that 1/3 of the new vaping users are people who are underage, who have never smoked before. So this is something that has been coming on and on and on. So there's been some interest by some legislators in Colombia, like the case of Brazil. In Colombia, it should be the Congress who actually comes up with, will this thing be regulated? And there's been quite a bunch, I don't have the exact number with me right now, quite a bunch of proposals since 2016 at least. You can like sort them in two kinds. One of them want these things to be just as strictly regulated as tobacco is. You can sell them near schools or universities. You can sell them to underage people. There's a lot of restrictions in terms of promotion, in terms of what advertising are they allowed to make. And the others want a bit less stringent regulation to be able to promote more easily. They want to be able to do things like sell almost everywhere, which is kind of what is happening right now in Colombia, and as it was in Peru, as we told people earlier. It's really easy to get vaping devices and vaping liquids and disposable vapors everywhere. There's Philip Morris, which is the big like a big actor in this market, but there's also a lot of more smaller independent brands that basically import devices from China and then sell them everywhere. So in this context, what Oroño has been doing is basically to go and appear in Congress and try to lobby basically Congress people to push for a softer regulation. We've found evidence that he was particularly close with one former congressman called Mauricio, I forgot his name, sorry. One former congressman who used to be Mauricio Toro, sorry, right. who now is working at the government. And Mauricio Toro appears in events where these people, the SBA folks, are also. And he's also been pushing like this harm reduction argument so far, but he's not the only one. I mean, we've seen at least 3 other Congress people talking about this in terms of supporting harm reduction. We know that because SBA very rarely publishes in their social media whenever a Congress person talks in ways that are favorable to them. But the other thing that's happening is that SBA is just one of the forces that are trying to lobby and influence the Congress in Colombia to be lenient with vaping regulation. We found lobbying efforts from other parties as well, and we know that. And when we spoke, I at least spoke with like 8 different people who are in Congress for doing this story, and all of them were very worried that there was a lot of lobbying around. In Colombia, lobbying is really hard to cover, really hard to unfold because it's common practice that Congress people under operatives, their staff offices don't record the meetings. There's no such thing as a mandatory register of lobbyists, things like that. So what we have is whatever someone wants to tell us, and what they told us on the record is that there's a lot of lobbying around, and so maybe is one of the entities that's doing that.
And Jose, what is the current state of the discussion in Colombia? What is next?
There's a bill in Colombia. We have 2 cameras in the Congress, so the bill that passed through the lower camera, and then it's going to start its way on the upper one. It's this bill is more on the stringent side of things. Still, some people I've talked to told me that it's not quite the best bill possible, but it's a bill that at least would for the most part, make tobacco alternatives equivalent to tobacco, and have many of the same restrictions. And it's about that's what happens because this is an issue that is coming around in Colombia from time to time, but it doesn't seem to be like a very sorry, like a very first order issue, like a very important issue for legislators. So we'll see what happens. What we know is that there's a lot of people just very taking close notes and having like a close observation on what's happening in Congress. So it's going to be interesting to see how does the bill end up being when it comes to the Senate, if it does at all.
Yeah, we will be watching for the new developments in Colombia and see how the discussion, the debates for these bills play out. I was wondering if for the people in the audience right now, if you guys wanna have any questions about what we are talking, we want to open the space to you. We're curious about any aspects of our reporting or how we got the information that we got, and if you want to send any questions, we want to give you some space now. You writing comments, whatever questions you may have. But coming back, and we will address them as they come. Coming back to our something that I wanted to ask. So in Colombia, Jose, how widespread is vaping and alternative consumption over there? What is the magnitude? What are we talking about?
It's, I mean, the latest figures we have is that almost 20% of people who have ever, the Colombians have ever used at least once vaping products in their life. 2/3 of them are current users, and what's more worrying is that there's some evidence that it's becoming more popular in people who are underage or who are very young, meaning under 24 years. So there was a recent poll by the UNODC, and the Bogota Mayor's Office, that says that almost 20% of people under 24 have ever vaped once. And this is worrying because has been happening quite fast, not like 3 years ago. So people are starting to sound alarms. And you see a lot of anecdotic evidence that this is so. Last year, I went to a very big music festival in Colombia called Salud Picnic, and vaping advertising and it was Philip Morris vaping advertising actually was next to liquor advertising and cigarette advertising all over the place, quite normally. And the audience for this concert, for the most part, is under 25 years, under 30 years. I'm not part of this demographic, but I still went, so I could see that for myself. And next to universities in Bogota, you see the 1-2 blocks away. You see this card, some promotional activity by some vapor companies, not necessarily the ones by Philip Morris, but others also, that just give away free disposable vaping devices to college kids who are 19, 20 years old. Maybe, in Colombia, it's not unusual to see kids under 18 going to college. So it's quite likely that in some cases, these promotionals are actually giving vaping devices to underage kids. So this is something that, again, is quite probable. It's not something that I have seen firsthand, but it's not clear if these people are actually controlling. They're not giving away these things to people underage.
That's something I thought was really interesting about what Salud con Lupa did in Peru. Fabiola, you've talked a little bit about this, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how you reported that stores, including VAT stores, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right, were selling e-cigarettes, vapes to children, because that's something that is very interesting. I think other news stations in other countries could be interested in learning more about that, because obviously we see in statistics all around the world that rates of e-cigarettes or vape use among children are pretty high. In many countries, they are higher than rates of use among adults. So I think what you guys learned and how you did it could be very helpful.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, we try to follow how the different companies that are importing and also selling, distributing in our country the vapes, which is the message, how is the public they wanted to hear. Especially the disposable e-cigarettes are a product that in my country have a market that is I think standard in more markets, in more shops everywhere because of the price, and also because we don't have any regulation about the advertisement. We can see the case in other countries that they are worried about an epidemic of young people or teenagers that are vaping. But here, I think that in Peru, we cannot face or we don't project or estimate how is the risk. This is something that happens because of that discussion in Peru is very, very old. We didn't update the regulation of tobacco, and also we didn't review all the information of the, I think, the last 5 years in the world about the e-cigarettes. The groups that now are promoting the vapes are people that wanted to introduce a message that is less harmful. It's important for public health. They try to validate this message, and many medias publish their position as a source. They didn't, of course, as you mentioned, they don't do that disclosure that they are not users or not scientifics with independent studies. They are people that are doing an activist because of an special interest and their connection, as you investigated, of the ACCO, AMCCO, INCO network, and others organizations that they are linked. This is something that is not in the landscape here for the authorities and also for the in researchers that are trying to how to follow this problem in the country. And I imagine that in other countries like Bolivia, Ecuador, that are other countries that are our neighbors, have the same situation because we also discussed the reviewing of the importation that the vapors are like products, electronic products, cosmetics, and they introduce this, and it means that we don't need any register, any sanitary register, because they think that they are something that are for entertainment, and this is something that I think evidence that the government and authorities at the sanitary agency are not facing the problem.
One of the things that was interesting when talking with politicians in different countries is that some of them, at least a couple of them, were like, I didn't know about the foundation, I didn't know about Casey, I had no idea that all of these organizations existed. So even though like they were really involved with the latest proposals regarding these nicotine products, there was, for example, there was one politician, representative in Costa Rica, who is like really have the resources to investigate who or to research who is talking with us and where they may have been getting their funding. So this was something that was really, really interesting. I think we are almost over with the time. I don't know if you guys want to say anything. Do you have any closing thought to close this space? We still are not receiving questions. So if you are listening to this is your last chance to ask one. But in the meantime, does any of you guys want to say something that you think we should talk about in this space? Also, your last chance.
I
Yeah, I would. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry,
it's
Laura.
a quick addition to the discussion. It's like I think it's interesting to understand how the industry works in Latin America. One, and I think the greatest part of this project was to see which of their tactics they repeat in every country and which are the ones that are different. And that's what I like about our stories. And I think it's interesting to see that they adapt when it's necessary, but they always want the same to all of our countries. That is the religion to sell more to get to our public.
Yeah, and I would add to that that sometimes big tobacco and something you've seen before, they do the nastier things in places of the world that they believe don't have big oversight, like Latin America or Africa. There's horror stories of the nasty things Philip Morris and others have done in Africa. For instance, in Latin America, there's also some reporting of how they have supported smuggling cigarettes, for instance, things like that. So I believe, yeah, it's very important for English speaking audience to be close to what's happening here because in a way that's the kind of thing you won't be able to see. That's the kind of thing you will be able to see in your own turfs. So I would like to say again, thank you for the invitation to join this project because it was quite important to find a global resonance to these seemingly local stories which are not local at all.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you all. Um, I think this gives us the closing of our Twitter space. As I said at the beginning, if you are listening and you have any information about the topics that we have been reporting about or about other issues that you think we should be investigating, please get in touch and let us know. We may not find out if you don't tell us. And so that's a very important thought. Like the only way that we know of things that are happening is if people tell us. So you may know something that we don't know about and could start an investigation. Um, anyway, Fabiola, Jose, Laura, maybe if you want to put your emails in comments, maybe that would make it easier for folks if they want to reach out. But in any way, our emails are in our bios on our websites. I'm going to Panama for the COP, for the Framework Convention Tobacco. I still don't know. On the FCTC, which is a international treaty that aims to reduce rates in around the world. And the COP in Panama is an international conference where more than 150 countries will be discussing about how to apply the treaty and how to reduce smoking rates all over the place globally. I will be reporting there on any tobacco industry attempts to influence the negotiations, among other things. So if you are around and if you want to chat, please say hi. Let me know, email me, and I'll be around. And thank you so much, everyone, again, for joining, for participating in this project. For our listeners, we hope that we can hear from you very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for joining and for being here, talking to us or with us or listening to us.
Thank you.
The discussion, it's like I think it's interesting to understand how the industry works in Latin America. One, and I think the greatest part of this project was to see which of their tactics they repeat in every country and which are the ones that are different. And that's what I like about our stories. And I think it's interesting to see that they adapt when it's necessary, but they always want the same to all of our countries. That is the religion to sell more, to get to our public.
Yeah, and I would add to that sometimes big tobacco and something you've seen before, they do the nastier things in places of the world that they believe don't have big oversight, like Latin America or Africa. There's horror stories of the nasty things Philip Morris and others have done in Africa. For instance, in Latin America, there's also some reporting of how they have supported smuggling cigarettes, for instance, things like that. So I believe, yeah, it's very important for an English-speaking audience to be close to what's happening here because in a way that's the kind of thing you won't be able to see. That's the kind of thing you will be able to see in your own turfs. So I would like to say again, thank you for the invitation to join this project because it was very important to find a global resonance to these seemingly local stories which are not local at all.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you all. Um, I think this gives us the closing of our Twitter space. As I said at the beginning, if you are listening and you have any information about the topics that we have been reporting about or about other issues that you think we should be investigating, please get in touch and let us know. We may not find out if you don't tell us. And so that's a very important thought. Like the only way that we know of things that are happening is if people tell us. So you may know something that we don't know about and could start an investigation out if you don't tell us.